this guitar lesson I'm going to be showing you how to play a fingerstyle arrangement of Silent Night. I want to show you this in 3 stages so that I can show you how I make fingerpicking arrangements so that you can use this method to make your own fingerstyle arrangements. This piece is great to play on electric guitar or acoustic guitar, and it's perfect for you to play for your family and friends this Christmas. Welcome to Dave's Guitar Club. Love music, learn music and make music. Get the tabs for this lesson for free from the link in the description box below, and check out my Patreon page where you can support the channel as well as get lots of extra stuff that accompanies the lessons on the channel. The first step is to learn the melody. I've put the tabs on screen now so you can have a look at them first or pause the video, but you can also follow along with the tab sheets from the link in the description box. The second step is to play the bass notes of the chords at the same time as playing the melody line that we've just gone through. Knowing the chords will give you the root notes that you need to play in the bass. So for example, a G major chord will mean playing this G note in the bass. If it's a G minor chord, it still means playing the same G bass note. As we're just adding the bass notes at this stage, it don't really matter if it's a major or minor, as the important thing here is to imply the chords with the bass note. Keep the bass notes ringing out whilst playing the melody underneath it. It really is important to keep these bass notes ringing out whilst playing the melody. You might need to try playing the melody with different fingers to the fingerings that you used when playing the melody on its own. I usually find that the melody will often, not always, but will often fit around the chord shapes. So for example, this first melody of should fit around a C major chord shape quite well. So if you have a C major chord like this, and all we need is the bass note of it, that means that we have these fingers free to play that melody. And I can play that at the same time as that bass note. So you don't need to keep the actual fingers on the chord shape, you can do, but it's just to give you an idea of the fingering options, so it gives me the idea that it's this finger that's going to play the bass note. Now you just need to work through this with the tab sheet, go through it bar by bar until you can play it all, and then we can move on to the final step. The final step is to fill in the gaps and to fill out the arrangement with fingerpicking patterns using the chords. Just make sure the melody doesn't get lost. The melody is the most important thing and everything else needs to fit around it. So I usually advise to try and keep the melody in the highest register. Keep it simple. You can always make it more complex later, as long as it sounds good, of course. I will usually start by filling in the gaps in between the melodies first. So for example, after the first phrase of Silent Night, there's a small gap before the next line of Holy Night. So I've decided to add a very simple fingerpicking pattern here, which is just going to be holding the full C major chord now. I'm just going to play the G string and the B string at the end of the phrase. That's it. It's that simple. But that's going to fill in that gap nicely, but not get in the way of the melody or the bass notes. The second phrase of Holy Night has a gap before the next phrase as well. So this time I'm going to do something very similar, but I'm going to fill in that gap with just something a little bit different to add a bit of variation, which is a a little bit quicker. So it's very simple things to add, but they're going to make the arrangement flow and just hold it all together and sound good. These two simple patterns that I've used to fill in these gaps, the first one of and the next one of, these two are both going to reoccur throughout this piece a couple of times as well. So whenever I have a phrase that does something similar to that, I'm going to fill it in with one of those two patterns. And this is going to add some repetition to my picking patterns, as well as the repetition that's in the melodies throughout the piece as well. After filling in these gaps, I will think about what else I can add to the piece. So I don't want to make the piece too busy, so I won't get overboard with this, but I will try and add some more things to it to help it to flow better and just to sound a bit fuller. So for example, the next thing I looked at with this piece was to add some more bass notes to the arrangement. So I'm going to try and make these follow a pattern as well. So for example, this piece is in 6/8, so the count is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's usually kind of a pulse or a beat on beat 1 and beat 4. So I figured this beat 1 already has bass notes on them. But I thought, what about adding another bass note on beat 4 as well to kind of give it a bit more of a rhythmical pulse of that 6/8 pattern. So I've added another bass note on each bar on beat 4. So now this first phrase goes. You see, there's just a bit more of a flow, there's a bit more rhythm to it now. So just adding in that extra bass note hasn't got in the way of the melody, it hasn't made the piece too busy, it's just made it sound a bit more rhythmical and it just sounds fuller, like I said. So I think this arrangement's really starting to come together, and what I'll do now is I'll go through and I'll listen to the arrangement again and I'll add things and I'll remove things and I'll adjust things just to make the piece sound as flowing as possible, but still with that melody being the most dominant part. So yeah, have a go, make your own arrangement. I'm going to play you my arrangement now. Get the tabs from the link below. So that's my arrangement. I hope this has given you some ideas that you can use for making your own fingerstyle arrangements, and I do hope that you have fun playing my arrangement to your friends and family this Christmas. Get the tabs for this lesson for free from the link in the description box below. I've put a link to my Patreon page on the screen now, so you can go over there and you can have a look at what's on offer so you can support the channel. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and just have a great Christmas, guys. See you next time.